Hello.
There he is, my 2 o'clock.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Are we on? No, we're not on yet.
Oh no, we're on. We're live, pal.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. So, let me get the elephant out of the room here. Because you
Oh, Anthony,
brought
Anthony. Oh, Anthony is there?
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, no, because when we were confirming this, you asked about him, and I'm like, oh no, he lost his smile. So we've rebranded this podcast. It's no longer the Furlough Files. It's a Spitecast. I'm doing it just to spite him because it's
Well, how did he lose his smile? Did he knock extra cheese on his meatball sub? He needs to lose weight. No, you know what? I can't talk bad about him. I said I wasn't gonna.
you
People ask
can
me all the
you re-
people ask me all the time about him. Like, do you really hate him? Like, let me tell you the truth, Ben. The guy actually. People are like, if he's so bad in the ring, why did you book him? I mean, he had a 5-star match once. Actually, listen, no, this is true. He actually had a 5-star match once. I was watching it the other day. It was a 6-man tag. It was him, the other two Vandals against Billy Fives, Jeff Roth, and Anthony Michaels, and it was a 5-star match. It truly was, because the other 5 guys were stars and he was not.
I was gonna just assume he never got tagged in.
Yeah, no. I actually asked him yesterday if he could have. Yeah, I was just curious, because the kind of person he is. I asked him the common pop culture question: if you could have dinner with anyone famous, dead or alive, he picked. He said he would pick someone dead because they wouldn't eat alive. It would leave
Right.
more for him.
I mean, that's the logic checks. I mean,
Listen, don't get me started with logic with him. The guy, there was a thing. There was a thing that it said like one in four Americans, only 1 in 4 Americans knew. I think I told you this. Knew the branches of government. So I asked him one time to see. I asked 3 people when I got to him, and all 3 knew the 3 branches of government. So it proved that theory wrong. That was 1 in 4 knew, because actually 3 out of 4 knew. I asked him, and he said, "I don't know." Tree branch. I'm like, yeah, no.
oh man, yeah. So I don't know. He got burned out or whatever, and he claims he will return one day. But
Yeah, oh,
I've
oh, yeah,
I
okay.
you know I've you know how he is with long term commitments and
See, I heard a different story through we have some of the same friends and contacts. I heard a different story why he wasn't there anymore.
uh-huh.
I heard that you required all co-hosts to be vaccinated, and since he wasn't vaccinated,
Oh yeah. Well, ever
he could.
ever since that Drew Barrymore incident, it's been a real touchy subject around these parts.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So I think listen, it's not like we can't start every podcast till the end of time bashing him. I mean, that's open territory for me. I'm okay with it. But
Oh, well, and it's most of it's true. So
right, I listen, and I expected with you that we have to always we always have to get that out of the way because it's obligatory. I think. You know.
yes, of course.
Right. So we were talking a little bit before, I guess, what we were going to talk about today, and I think I think it would be bad if we did not bring up Howard Brody. Uh,
Yes. Let me say first of all, I think there are a lot more. There are many more people more qualified to speak on Howard than me, because they were closer, but with
mhm.
Howard. But I first worked with Howard and met Howard when I was 16 years old, more than 30 years ago in 1990. And I worked with him in the UWF, but I worked for Howard on some of his shows, um, as a light heavyweight. I was as a kid, and Howard was always absolutely professional to me. And one of the greatest lessons I learned in pro wrestling that actually translates over to anywhere in life actually comes from Howard and Luna Vachon. Because this was a time when I was working shows in Miami for Ram Man, and everyone down there was great. Ram Man, Primetime, Saltman Alex G, Dr. Red Roberts. They all were absolutely professional, and they treated me. I was 16 years old. They treated me like I was one of them. But not everyone in the business treated me that way at the time. Guys like Bruno Sassi and stuff, they did not want to be on shows that I was on because I was 16 years old, and they would threaten to pull out of shows if I was booked or involved. Um, not Rusty, because Rusty was always great as well, but those were some of Rusty's guys,
Right.
that had that problem. And what Howard told me later in life was, like, when I mentioned to him, listen, you guys were always like super professional to me. And he said, yeah, well, everyone said like, you were just a kid, and why have you on there, and just to run you out of the business, and you're a kid, blah blah blah. And Howard said, yeah, he's a kid working shows now, but in the future he could be our boss running shows.
Right.
And that was like a kind of like a don't burn bridges, because you never know who they'll be tomorrow. Kind of lesson I learned from Howard. Howard was a good guy. We spoke on the phone often.
That's good. It's a variant of like the don't don't mistreat people on the way up because they'll
Right,
you'll run across them on the way back down again.
right.
You know.
And Howard and I spoke often on the phone. We spoke on very strange topics. Like a lot of mostly pop culture stuff, not a lot of wrestling stuff. Very rarely wrestling related. We spoke about like a lot of binge watching TV shows. He'd recommend TV shows to me that he thought I might like, and I'm like, yeah, this is like 8 seasons with like 200 episodes. Have you seen it? He goes, no, I thought you might like it though. I'm like, you haven't even seen it. I don't have time to watch this stuff, but stuff like that. We talked about science fiction, like time travel, and we talked a lot about death as it was.
Did he used to write for like or work on like some sci-fi magazine, didn't he? Like way
I
back in
do
the day?
not. I don't know.
Like
He may have done it when I was
a
younger.
Starlog or something, maybe something like that.
Maybe he did. I don't know. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that he worked for WWF magazine until reading his bio a few years ago. But we just talked about stuff like that, science fiction, like the new show. He was excited about Quantum Leap being rebooted, and we were talking about how that'll be a good show, and stuff like that. Um, and he would always call me when I would call someone out on their bullshit online. He'd be like, "Oh my God, that was great! You called this guy out."
We had a joke because in our group with Blake and Anthony, Howard loved to call them, and you had to like be cognizant of what you were posting online, or if you would comment on one of his posts or whatever, you could almost like then pull your sleeve up and look at at your watch and count down from five, expecting the phone call from him.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. On April Fool's Day, I changed my profile picture to Howard's old picture from like 30 years ago, where he looked like Outback Jack. I don't know if it was the Halloween costume. My phone rang within like 2 minutes, like, take my picture down. I was like, Howard, it's April Fool's Day. It's temporary for an hour. He said, okay, fine, you can leave it.
He was always a good sport
Yes.
with ribs. Not necessarily as they
Yeah,
happen.
he
Not
doesn't.
necessarily.
I was
Not
gonna say he didn't
necessarily.
like him right away,
Not necessarily the
but,
day after or the week after. Maybe the year
or,
after.
or an hour later, he'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, that's true.
I did. I saw someone. I forget who it was. Reposted a story that he told on here a few months ago. We may have like his last interview when he did the podcast like 2.5 months ago.
It probably was.
Strangely
Yeah.
enough, but the story where they made the business cards,
Oh yes, I heard that. I did hear that one.
which the business cards that were all over. What was it, like a cauliflower
Yes, yeah,
get together or something like that, and they were just distributed everywhere. And he again, I think the story goes that he was like supremely upset, and
yes,
then
he was.
eventually came around to admitting it was. But I think on our podcast he said that rib and he really appreciated it, and he came around like a good year plus later on when I sent him a picture of my balls with Jackie's phone. I mean that he it was fantastic because he was so riled up. I
I
don't.
know. I spoke to him about that. He was upset about it, and then he was like really hot. And I said, "Well, I could send you a picture of Anthony's if you want to see those." And he said, "No, I gotta go."
The funny thing was he kept them for some reason. He saved the picture on his phone for a while and was like I think he if people engaged him in the story enough, he would offer to send them
Oh,
the picture.
that's funny.
And
That's hilarious.
I'm like, somewhere you're appreciating these enough to keep them and reference them and view them. You know,
Yeah, he did love a good joke. It's really sad that we lost him. I was sudden. I didn't know he had health issues like that. I had spoke to him probably a day or two before when all of a sudden he stopped posting like on the first week of August, first few days of August.
yeah.
And yeah, that was it was just it was really sad. We used to joke, not about the people that we lost, like we lost Rusty and Cliff and Dave Johnson and all these people in a row and Ram Man and and then recently Death Row, Wendell Death Row, and we used to joke around and say like, oh, eventually one of us we're gonna be on the list, so we're gonna go. Who's gonna go first? And I'd tell him, and I'd say, well, if I go first, I'm coming back to haunt you. He says, no, don't you want to haunt Janetti? Why me?
Because
So
you're haunting Janetti in life.
I didn't hear that. Say it again.
You're haunting Anthony in life.
Yes,
You're not.
this is true. This is true.
You're getting it all out of the way now. So
This is true.
Plus, you have the note in your pocket, the suicide note. So you know
This is true.
that'll go into death. So yeah.
Now, the truth is, I never even had such a note. I just tell him that, and he gets scared over it, like he doesn't want nothing to happen to me.
Well, don't.
I never bother.
Well,
I know.
don't give up the fucking gag now.
Yeah. He's never gonna know. Like he thinks I have two notes. I have one that says like it's a joke note that says that if I should die in a car accident or something or whatever, the note on me says that I actually took my own life
Mm.
and that I was upset that him and I were in a love affair and he left me, which of course is not true.
Right.
He didn't leave me. We're still in a love affair. And so if I should die suddenly, they're going to think that I killed myself. And then I told him the second note is when I'm mad at him, I carried around saying that he murdered me because I left him.
Right.
And that's the truth. I left him.
Right. Like, yeah. I mean, everyone leaves him eventually. If you've ever been in a relationship with Anthony, someone's leaving someone eventually.
This is true. This is true. So
Yeah. What was the? I think you told. I don't know if you told. I don't think I read it online. I think you told us in our group chat. The weird time travel thing that Howard told you about.
listen, it sounds like a screenplay. Like I don't know if he was telling me the truth about it or if he was just like test marketing a screenplay on me. But it was like he was a kid in the streets in New York playing kickball with his friends, and then he noticed a man out of the corner of his eyes in a building up in this up a like a high rise building, like maybe like third or fourth floor, just watching them play. And he looked at the man, and the man waved at him and smiled, and he waved at him, and it felt like it was someone he was related to, but it wasn't because none of his relatives were in that building or in town, and he just looked like he knew the man, and he went about playing, and then he told me like years later, reverse the roles. He was in a building in New York, looking down the street, watching himself playing kickball, and waved to himself, and then he woke up. So like he doesn't know if it was a dream, if he was in a parallel universe or on a different plane or whatever. But it was a really good story, and it sounds like he's telling me don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone. They're not going to understand. I'm like, sounds like you're copywriting this as a theme
Yeah.
for a
That's
for a book. It was a good.
that's
It was definitely
a
a
poor
good,
man's
compelling story.
NDA right there.
So it's definitely a good story, though. But yeah,
Yeah, the quantum leap thing, you guys, you mentioned. I just finally saw a ad for that the other day. I'm not sure about this new one, but I love
I
the
know the
old.
first.
I love the old
Yeah, I
show.
know. I know the difference is the first one takes place in modern times as opposed to the 50s and 60s and 70s. Like I know the first episode, he goes back, I think, it's into Desert Storm. But I saw a commercial the other day where I could have sworn he jumps into the body of Brett Michaels from Poison in 1986.
It did. Well, yeah, he had like the bandana and the yeah,
Right,
it did look like Brett
right.
Michaels.
That's what I thought it was. Like it was like an episode from Poison. So I mean, that looks good. I mean, I'm gonna
Well,
watch it, of course. So.
Well, isn't the theme of it that he was leaping, at least for the most part in the original show? Uh, it was contained within like
His lifetime.
the breadth of his lifetime.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess that would make
And then
sense.
there were
That it's
there were episodes when he leaped out of his lifetime because like it was his grandfather he leaped into, and they had shared the same DNA or something like that. But yeah,
right.
that's what it is. It can only be in the time frame when he was alive that he could travel through.
I did like when they started to do like like an additional like over, like a not episode to episode story, but like a overarching storyline with like
Right.
another character that was leaping around. I think it was
Yeah.
a woman.
Yeah.
Um,
Aaliyah, the evil leaper. Yeah. I
Evil
actually
Leap, yeah.
actually I actually have every episode of Quantum Leap on VHS tape.
Really?
from in order, in
But did,
sequential order. Yeah.
but do you own a VCR still?
No, I don't. I don't have a VCR anymore, but I still have the
Right.
tapes.
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah, I have like bins and bins full of VHS tapes, probably 1,000 VHS tapes,
that's it.
old wrestling shows. All that I have like matches with me and Marty Jannetty on there, and stuff that I can never pull up. I have to get a VCR or something.
You need to like get that stuff transferred because those tapes will I think the quality eventually deteriorates.
Yeah, I mean they're stored in a facility where they're actually like not going to be damaged, but and they're stored in a way where they're okay. But you're right. I need to transfer them over to digital or something else. There's a lot of stuff on there that I can like match at my first match from 1990.
Upload
Before. Yeah,
upload to a
there's a
hard
lot.
drive or a cloud or something. However,
Yeah, I have matches with Marty. I have several matches with Marty Jannetty on there. My matches with Terry Funk, some stuff on there that I can that's on
but
VHS.
was this a show where Marty Jannetty actually got his paycheck?
Yeah, not the one Lou Spector stole.
Did we ever tell that story?
I don't know, but I'll tell you that story. So we did a show in Davy Road Arena, and the main event was Billy Fives defending the FIW title against Marty Jannetty,
That guy, Billy. Hey.
and the only ones in the building were me and were Marco and Mike Blake, who were setting up the ring, and the Davy Arena. You set the ring. You're
That
like,
was Mike Blake's ring, right?
well, we bought the ring, and
Oh,
Mike
okay,
Blake
okay.
maintained it. Yeah. So Mike Blake and Marco were setting up the ring, and the ring in the Davy Arena is like I don't know 300 feet from the locker room. Me and Jody were in the locker room area, and we were unloading her car, and I had all the pay envelopes and stuff, so I pulled all the pay envelopes out, and Lou Spector was coming in the back at the time. He just showed up, so we're the only ones in the building, or us five.
One of
Mike,
the rare promoters that actually had the pay envelopes made ahead of time.
oh, I would do them days in advance.
Right.
Yeah, so
Well, yeah, I'm
um,
I'm joking that most guys are waiting for tickets to be sold
yeah,
at
no,
the front until they
I knew
stuff
we
the
had we
envelopes at 9:30 at night. You
yeah, but
know.
we didn't sell advance. We never sold advance tickets. Really, there was no social media, and there was never really a market for advance tickets. Like on the big show, the April 13th show, we sold 3,100 tickets, and we all had like 90 advance sales. I mean, it was like ridiculous the amount of advance sales we would have for shows.
Right.
So everything was walk up. But I knew we would draw, based on the feedback and stuff, and
Yeah,
we
but
really
it's
pushed it and
it's
stuff.
always smart to at least if you're going to run a show, be able to
Look,
have the money
if you
ahead of
can't pay the
time.
guys, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
running the show, right?
Right. Exactly.
You can't run it on the hope that you're going to make the money. So
Right.
anyway, as we were unloading Jody's car, my briefcase was opened, or it was like a little like a duffel bag, like a handbag, like a handheld briefcase thing, leather. And I pulled it out
Satchel.
upside down, yeah, like a satchel. And I pulled it out upside down, and all the pay envelopes fell on the ground. So we started picking them all up, one by one, and Lou was there, and Lou helped us too. There were some that went under her car and stuff, and I just put them all back in the satchel, and I looked around. There were none there, so I got them all. So it came time to pay one that night, and I had no pay envelope for Janetti. So I was like, okay, this sucks. So I had enough cash on me, and I had enough money in the box office to pay him, which I went and got and made a new envelope for Janetti out of that and paid him. And Janetti was getting his pay was $300 for the night. So I went and got $300. I had it on me, and I had like $200 on me, and I went and got the rest from the box office, and I paid him. And then I saw Lou, and Lou looked suspicious, like something that fucker was there when I dropped these envelopes, and I know I had Janae's envelope,
No
so I know
no poker face, huh?
I know I made everyone's envelope. So I said to Lou, I said, oh man, this sucks. I don't have money for Janetti. I can't afford to pay him. I had the envelope done, but I lost it. I must have when we dropped them. I don't know. I must have missed it. I don't know. I made it. And he's like, well, I could loan you the money if you want. And I was like, listen, at this time, Lou didn't have ever had $10 on him. So I
Right.
said, yeah. I said, do that. Can you loan me the money so I could pay Janetti? I wanted to see what he would do. He said, yeah, I got to run to the ATM across the street and get the money. He ran across the street to this little convenience store to get the money. And keep in mind, this is like in like 1998, 1999, something like that. And he comes back with $300, $200 bills that he got out of the ATM, which, as you know,
Hmm.
ATMs at convenience stores don't give $100 bills.
No,
The only place at the time you
at the
couldn't even get $100
time,
bills from
definitely not.
casinos. At the time, you couldn't even get $100 bills from a casino ATM. You can now from casino ATMs, but you can't get $100 bill ATMs from a regular bank ATM or a convenience store. And then on top of that, the bills were folded in half and then folded again, which is I had these little envelopes. They're like little the key envelopes that hotels use to put
Like
the room key in.
like the Yeah. I know exactly what
So
you're talking
so the money had to be folded and folded again and put in there. So the envelopes are small enough that I could put them all in my pocket and walk around with them at the show. You know, so that's why they were that size. So um, the money the $200 bills he gave me, I put $200 bills in Genetti's envelope. Marty Jannetty, not Anthony Jannetty.
about. Right.
That guy never made $200 his whole life from wrestling. So they were folded over again, and one was marked because I guess it was signed by a manager at the store or whatever. So that was the same marking. So I knew they were my money that Lou took the envelope. So it was obvious. There was no question. There was no doubt about it. And to this day, Lou still denies it and says he didn't do it. Whatever. But that's that.
So when you quote borrowed it, I guess you never paid him back.
Oh, of course not. No, yeah, he showed up to my house. He showed up at my house to get it. I said, "Yeah, I don't have it. I'll have it later." I never had it back, and he just let it go.
Yeah, I think it was the maybe kind of trying to be an unspoken like,
Yeah,
all right, I got you, and then you got me, and
yeah,
let's all call it a day, call it even.
yep, yep. So, and then years later, oh no, that wasn't him. Never mind. I was gonna say I thought it was him posting online that he needed car insurance or he needed a bed for. No, that was somebody else. Never mind.
I know who you're talking about. You don't have to slither around the issue. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's another story. And it's sad that I actually blocked him after. No, I've known him since I was 11 years old. So
The person we're talking around here, I I I just noticed one day I wasn't seeing his posts anymore, and apparently I got blocked, and I don't know if it was when he was running his account or someone else had a hold of his account, but I suspect maybe we poked too hard at him on a podcast or something, and
well, he listens to your podcast, so
I
he won't be
don't
happy when he hears
I
this.
don't know
If
that
he,
he does, or maybe someone's a rat. You know what I mean, or something. But I don't care. Anything I say on here, I'm not.
yeah,
I would say to his face. So
yeah. Well, even if he hears this and he'll post about me, how dare I, and I'm a traitor, and you think you know somebody, I wasn't a real friend, and he did so much for me, and he's done so much for everyone his whole life, and that's all he's ever done is he's woe is me, he's so nice, blah blah blah,
yeah. So
And I don't believe this is entirely him because this is not how it used to be. I think that there's someone there controlling the strings and pushing him to be this way because it's beneficial financially. Um,
there's that, but there's also I think his situation has changed, which may have changed him
yeah,
over
I,
the
I do
years.
know he had a lot of memorabilia that he should have sold, and then it actually was ruined in the flood. I heard he lost all of that in the flood,
Mm.
and I told him he should have sold it. He could have easily got $250,000 for that memorabilia he had from his father's career. But whatever, it is what it is. I got tired of this shit every week. Oh, we need prayers. We need a new bed to move in. It's the only thing holding us up from moving in. I don't understand how a new bed is preventing you from moving into a house. It's like, well, here you pay the rent, you can move in. However, you don't have a bed, so you can't move in yet. You
Right,
have to have a bed.
right. It's not like
You
you
know,
don't have a couch or a
I know.
twenty
You
dollar
have they
twenty
don't
dollar
they don't
air
dictate
mattress or
they don't dictate what you have to have.
even a pool float.
Right. You
For
don't you don't you don't get Spectrum cable and they say sorry you have a 60-inch TV, you have to have a 72-inch TV. You can't have cable. It's the only thing preventing you from getting cable.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little ridiculous, but I've always you know I feel weird because we're like talking around this person, and so 99% of the people now that 1% knows exactly who we're talking about, and they're getting a kick out of it. But uh, I would say that ever since I've known him and his little circle, which has kind of changed a little over the last few years. Uh,
Yeah.
but he always kind of I always lumped him into the slip and fall crowd of like like always looking for a payday or a free
Right.
meal.
That's
Like
funny.
you eat 7/8 of a meal and then complain about it trying to get it for free, or
Right.
always looking for the angles somewhere, trying
And
like, oh,
that's
this floor looks wet. Let me sweep my girlfriend's leg
listen,
and
we were in a car accident one time. It was nothing. It was like he had to stop short. And then someone behind him hit him in the rear end in the bumper, and it was like a light tap, and he actually gigged himself with his keys. to make it look like he got color by hitting the steering wheel, and they were like, yeah, no,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's incredible. So that, but that's I wouldn't say that it, it fits with the wrestling world, but in the strange way. But man, I just yeah, it's rough. That's why like socially, I kind of like
yeah.
when we would go out as
I finally,
groups and stuff.
I
It's
finally blocked him because, and I know your situation with him where he made racist comments. He did that with me around certain situations where
yeah,
he would make racial comments about people, um, because he was angry at them.
yeah. I drew the
And
line at that. There's always an excuse. I'm
right,
stressed. I'm this, but like, other people when they're stressed don't, like that's not a cause of racism.
right,
Stress or like depression or whatever. That's either in you or it isn't. So
right.
that was always like the line with me
And
where I was like, yeah,
I'm not sure that he actually truly is a racist. I think he's just a whining little bitch that tries to get what he wants, and therefore goes to the obvious route of, you know what, you're black, so I'll make a black comment. You're Spanish, I'll make a Spanish comment, or you're fat, I'll make a fat comment. Whatever. He doesn't. I don't think he has.
it's the lowest hanging fruit when you're reaching for
Right.
something to throw at
He
someone.
doesn't have that thought process. I think to even he's not that sophisticated in thought.
Right.
Yeah, it's very short term thought. He always gets mad at someone for something stupid, and then moves on to the next person. He was mad at Vinny Scarpo, or mad at Chuck, or mad at this person. He focuses anger and rage on one person. He was mad at Dave Johnson for a while, and then of course, as you know, he great friends people. When they die, they were a great friend. Oh, Dave Johnson was a great friend. He punched you in the face and knocked you out and gave you brain damage, according to your claims.
Uh,
And when Howard passed away, he did the same thing. He said he was a great friend. Howard had him blocked on Facebook.
he did. That's
I
that.
know.
This is true. So
I
yeah.
know because he wants to make it about him, Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Right.
Oh, what can we do for you? Oh, I need sushi.
Yeah. I when I made that was the thing when I made the post after Howard passed away. I wasn't like a close friend with him. We were like kind of like friends of friends, and something. And I think our friendship more came from the times when we were kind of like rivals. When like the year I ribbed him, and then he was extremely mad at me. I think that down the road built a friendship, but so I was like, I don't want to make a sappy post because I think it would come off, you know, as not genuine. So I posted that story with the balls and whatever.
Right.
And so this is a long route to get to this one thing was that I think one friend of mine, the one whose balls I actually sent, ironically, he saw the post, and so he was like, "I'm really sorry for your loss," and I felt uncomfortable with that, because it's like
And that's why I posted my post. Don't
it's
my
not
last
about
line was
me, and
don't say you're sorry for my loss. It's not about me.
yeah,
Remember Howard. Yeah,
right,
that's why
right,
I do that.
yeah,
I do that with everybody.
similar thought pattern there. So
Yeah, I do that with everybody. If that if I comment about someone passing away, I'll say that. Don't say you're sorry. That aggravates me. People say I'm sorry for your loss. It's not.
it
Be sorry
doesn't,
for their family.
it doesn't. It really doesn't do anything, especially on
Right.
social
I
media,
know
to
people
write
just
it.
say it. I know people just say it to try and be sympathetic and show that
Right.
they understand. They understand.
And
How it feels.
it's a nice sentiment, I guess.
Yeah.
It is the thought that counts, and I guess in this day and age, even minimal effort is still
Right.
a bit. It's like pulling teeth for some people to do anything that
Right.
involves like pulling their head out of their own ass. So
That's true. I mean, that's true. I'd rather have them say that on social media than the other things they say, like bitching about taxes and stuff, about student loan shit. That drives me crazy. So
yeah,
yeah.
but
So
I mean, it's what social media I think has done, and these little things like when you see a notorious thoughts and prayer person that just posts that to everyone that's ever having an issue about anything, is that those things actually make a personal phone call or reach
right.
out of any kind, like a direct message or something, so means so much more than it would have
Right. People.
than it would
All
have
right.
10 years ago.
Right. When they're posting things like, "Oh, I'm sending thoughts and prayers and good vibes," they're not doing that for real for you. They're doing it to say, "Look at me, I'm a good person."
Yeah,
But
a little bit. I mean, I think some it comes. The problem is if when
Yeah.
someone sends the same thing every single time to every single person for
Right.
every single thing, even if they're genuinely like sad to hear of your situation or they are thinking about you, because
Right.
it's now basically the one cookie cutter response they use for everything.
It's
It
like a very cold. It's like the nice version of being future endeavored.
yeah, it's there's something even though again there's a thought and intent behind it that you can't gauge because it's always like the exact same thing. You
Right.
know, it's almost like the auto you know predict thing on your phone now.
Yeah.
That it's a weird and people can interpret that very weirdly. And
Yes. It's
and I
it's true.
think I have, and I think when I referenced it, you chuckled and knew exactly who I was talking about.
Yeah.
In our little groups of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So I'm doing this new thing, by the way. I start pronouncing words differently. It's
okay.
really fun. It's really fun. Like because it aggravates the shit out of people. Like I was talking to my friend today, and he says, "What are you watching?" I hear it in the background. I said, "Oh, I'm watching the Ironman." He said, "Ironman? What is that?" I said, "The Ironman. The Marvel movie. They started it more all with Ironman."
Well, that would be aggravating to me. Like
I really annoyed, and they're like, "No, it's Iron Man."
I
And I said,
I
"Oh,
I've done that where I've heard someone else mispronounce a word, and I'll go, "That's fun." I saw a British group that played the Pompano Amphitheater, and they called it Pompano, and ever since then I have
Pompano.
I have referred to it as Pompano. Like
That's funny."
we're talking like 20 years now. And
Yeah,
people look at me funny, but I'll adopt a word or two like that every now and then when I'm like, oh, that's clever. I like that,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. So
But I'm not
yeah, that's
going out.
true.
I'm not going out of my way to stick bamboo under people's fingernails like you're doing with Iron Man
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I do that though. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, you've picked the people and you pick the right. You're like, oh, this will piss this person off. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm watching Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon. What is that? Nickelodeon. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch a classic later, Cleopatra.
Oh fuck.
Actually, they do that shit. I got it from the game shows. They do that shit on the game shows. I really think they like can't pronounce the words, and they go on these game shows, and I don't know why they go on these game shows because they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
You mean contestants?
Yeah, the contestants on the game show, not the hosts. Like these people are the stupidest people in the world.
Well,
I'm watching Price of the Right of the day. And you have to guess the multiply price of this item times zero times 10.
right.
Like like the price of this whatever it is, this hair dryer times 10. Is it $77? Is it $99 or is it $140? It's $140 because anything times 10 ends in zero.
Ah,
See?
look at that.
You see? So these
Yeah,
people and no one and they always get it wrong.
that's funny.
Yeah, so it's kind of aggravating. Or the worst is if you ever watch Chain Reaction, that show where you got to
I
connect.
don't even know what chain reaction is.
There's a chain of words on top of each other, and you have to connect the words below to the next one. Like the first word could be locker, and the next word starts with an R. So you get the word locker, and the next word it starts with an R,
Okay.
and you have to guess locker what. So how does the next word connect with locker?
Room.
So like, right. So the guy's like rabbit,
Ah, Jesus.
and the host starts laughing. And they have to cut away from the host. He's like, is it locker or rabbit? And then it's like, no. So the next team goes, okay, your second letter is O. So you have locker R O. What do you think it is? Rhombus? No, it's not locker rhombus. So it goes back to the first team. You have locker R O O. What do you think it is? Is it locker rooftop? Like, what the fuck is locker rooftop?
You know, I know some of those shows they just pull people off the street. You just line up
That is true because we were in
and
Los Angeles
right, like
and we
when
got
you
pulled off the
guys did
street.
that,
No,
and
no, even
and
before that.
and then but I'm saying like, even then they select from that group, and I think they're looking for a lot of times
Well, we had tickets.
what's going to
Well, we
make
had
good
tickets to go.
TV.
Yeah, well, we had tickets to go there.
Right.
So, but
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 they're
as you're going
free,
in,
which means like
right. But as you're
There's
going in,
it's
they
not like
interview.
you
As
have
you're
to
going
take a
in,
quiz to qualify.
right. But as you're going into the studio, they interview you. They want to know who you are, what you do for a living, and as we're
You
going
can
in, oh, we're
form complete
professional wrestlers, and
sentences. Yeah,
right, and you're well spoken, and Marco was easy on the eyes at the time. He's hideous now, but back then he was easy on the eyes. So they picked him.
those pregnancies will do that to you.
Wait, never mind. He wasn't pregnant, was he? So
Listen.
so yeah, but me and Jody were out there in the '90s, and we got picked. I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you my Steven Spielberg story on here or not?
No,
We got picked to go to a game show. We were going to watch. I kind of ruined the punchline now, but
that's fine.
we got picked to go see this new show being filmed called Wait Till You Have Kids, and it was you had three newlywed couples on there that do not have children or are expecting children, and you have a game show host who asks them a question, and then you have the expert judge who is a child psychologist. So one of the questions was, and this show had a very famous uh, producer that was paying for the show, which of course you know who it is now because I said it. So one of the questions was, you come home and find your kid looking at an adult magazine. Do you A, take the magazine away and act like nothing happened, B, punish the kid, or C, explain the birds and the bees to them? And they lock in their answer, and the child psychologist tells them what the right answer is. So they were taping 2 episodes. Between episodes, I go to the bathroom, and as I'm walking into the bathroom, this guy stops me and puts his hand on my shoulder. And I'm like, okay. And I took his hand off my shoulder. I said, hey. He goes, hey, how are you? Do you like the show? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's wonderful. He goes, no, can you be honest with me? I don't get that a lot. What do you like about it? I said, well, I like that it'll be over soon and I can go home. Um, he's like, no, I mean, tell me, what do you, I said, well, I said, for real, I said, I understand the concept, but it's just bad. Who are you to tell me how to raise my kids? There's a lot of other variables in that question. For example, how old is the kid? Is the kid a boy or a girl? Was it a Playboy magazine or was it a hardcore sex magazine? Where did he get the magazine from? Was it from his friends? Did another adult give it to him? Was it my magazine? There's other factors. Is the kid a boy or girl? It's just how old. Just you can't tell me what's right or wrong. It's just he goes, oh yeah, we never thought of that. He says, well, what kind of advice do you have? I say just cancel the show now to save a lot of money on a show that's going to fail. And I said, but let's go to the bathroom now, so you have fun. So I go to the bathroom. I go back. I sit down next to Jody, and she's like flipping out. I'm like, listen, I think this guy tried to pick me up in the bathroom, some old guy. I don't know if he wanted to date me or what. And Jody's doing she has her hand up and she's pointing, to her hand. I'm like, what are you doing? You got an itch on your hand? She's like, no, look next to me. Look next to me. I look right next to her is sitting Kate Capshaw, and next to her is Kate Capshaw's husband, Steven Spielberg,
Right.
who is the producer of the show. I'm like, so I look at him and he says, hey, how are you? And I'm like, oh my God, it's the guy from the bathroom. And I didn't even realize it was
was he
Spielberg. And I
was he
should have.
wearing a ball cap back then too?
He actually had on like a Raiders of the Lost Ark hat, and
Yeah.
an ET jacket, and all his
He had
movies,
all of
like
his fucking.
like a Jaws necktie, and
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, ugh, I didn't realize it.
That's funny.
Yep, I didn't realize it. Yeah, there's been a lot of this. That was one of my
I feel like
celebrity.
a show like that. Also, I feel like it that example you gave, that one question.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
it's like obviously, even if that's not what you would do, you know what the right answer is. It's like it was like teaching about the birds and the bees.
Right.
I think that's what a trained professional would say is the
Yes.
answer. So it feels very heavy handed, anyways, in terms of
Right. Right. But there are a lot of variables in there. I mean, if the kid's 3 years old and doesn't know what they're looking at, then obviously you probably wouldn't. That wouldn't be the correct answer. You would ignore it and address it at a later time.
Right.
There's a lot of variables there. And there's a lot of other factors that create other situations, like where do they get the magazine from? Did an adult give it to them? Are they trying to groom my kid?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's true. I mean,
Yeah, the show never aired. I
it's-
never saw the show air.
it could be 10 different conversations depending
Right,
on all of those things.
right, right. There'll be other things you want to know. Yeah, the show never aired, and the host didn't fit. The host was Mark Lawrence, the guy who used to host Double Dare on Nickelodeon. I'm sorry, on Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, Nickelodeon. Yeah, so he didn't fit in with it. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was Ray Comb. I don't know who it was. It was one. It was an old host. I think it was Mark Lawrence though. I never saw it air though, so I probably
I've never
cost a
heard
lot
of
of
it,
people.
so yeah.
Yeah, I probably cost a lot of people their jobs that day.
You know, that's true. But the those game shows, you get a real good cross section of what's out there in this country. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's another thing Howard and I used to talk about. We used to always talk about ideas for shows and stuff. And I had an idea for a game show. I don't know what you would call it, like Street Smart or something like that, where you take people in professions like doctors or paralegals or whatever, and you just boom put them on the street for 30 days, and they have no cell phone and they have to survive. And you have a camera crew follow them around. But
It,
this,
in
that
like
yeah,
in like
kind of like that Mel Brooks movie. That's Life, was it?
but like but like in a like but still in like an American city.
Yeah, of course. It have to
Oh.
be a city like yeah. You're not gonna put them like
I mean, it would be
Saudi
more
Arabia.
interesting to take them to like Mexico City and they don't speak
Yeah.
Spanish and
Well,
see,
yeah. Then
you
yeah.
know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Then, yeah.
I'm not saying drop them in the desert without a canteen or
oh.
anything like
Oh.
that, but
Hey, we could do that. We could actually. Can we convince Janetti that it's a new show and he's been cast in it? And we just fucking send him to like Mexico or something. Or no, we can get him to go if we tell him he's going to London.
I mean, I feel like he goes to Mexico, he'd probably get thrown in jail for clogging toilets first and foremost.
We could send him to England.
He would
He'd love.
thrive there.
Of course, they love him there.
I mean,
He's like
he's I feel like he's at a point now where he might not get through the airport without getting recognized.
really.
Yeah. It's so I especially since it's like he's got a pretty big following and most of it's from England and we
Yeah.
forget they're a much smaller country.
Right.
So that number is way more impressive from a smaller country than like from, you know, like 315 million people in America, you know.
So he's like the like how Jerry Lewis was in France. He's like that in
I
England, I
think
guess.
he's getting there. Well, I mean, he's definitely appreciated for being a retard, like Jerry Lewis was in France. So yeah, I think we're onto something there. But honestly, I think he would thrive. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're talking like on every level. He'd be neck deep in chubby, naked chubby girls, and
That's his favorite. That's his specialty.
listen, he always I forget who gave him the advice, but he's like something about well, if they love you, love them back, you know. So I think
That sounds like something Dave Johnson would have said.
I it I feel like it might be, except that I don't know that Dave Johnson is the kind of guy he would have like taken words of wisdom to heart, you know.
He would have back then when he was like 18 years old, 19 years old. He would have.
You mean after the year of him, you know, punishing him, you know, with
Yeah.
kicks to the head and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah. He probably would have.
All right. Well, maybe it was him. I would ask him, but you know, who cares?
He doesn't remember, I'm sure, anyway.
We don't. He might, but like I'm not big on fact checking here. Like, I just throw shit out there, and if it's true, it's
Yeah.
true. If it's not, it's not.
Listen, he doesn't listen.
I don't
You know,
need to cite my sources and have like.
here's why I could say he doesn't remember. Here's why I say he might not remember. When I used to post shit like a real conversation with him just now about how he said he needed new ties for work, and I said go to Thailand, and he said, "Oh, is that a real store? Do they have a website?" That never happened. That conversation.
Right.
Okay, I made it up. I make up 99% of the conversations with him. I make up. And one time he called me and said, "Hey, did I really say that?" I'm like, "No, I made it up." He goes, "Oh, it sounds like something I would say. It's funny." I'm like, "Okay." He really thought we had a conversation. He really he really thought he really thought he was a moron.
Well, I mean, you know, you do enough moron shit, you start to believe stories you don't even remember. But you know, maybe you know, maybe there's some truth to the CTE shit. You know.
So, yep.
Yeah, I want to.
Well, I'm sure there definitely is.
Right.
I take 1,000 milligrams of Keppra a day
Really?
for seizure. Yeah, I take double the dosage of someone with epilepsy takes
Wow.
for dizziness and seizures. Yeah.
I've taken a lot of bumps to the head, not wrestling wise, but like I used to work. Construction's one story, but I used to work in the home theater installation business. I would,
Okay.
you know, I worked for a store that sold the stuff, and I would go out and install it and whatever. I can't
Yeah,
tell you how many times back in the day, you know, you would hang those really heavy plasmas on the wall,
yeah,
and
and they
then
fall on you.
you'd be underneath it, like wiring everything in the cabinet, and then you would forget you're under a plasma TV, and you would like stand up really quickly, and I would crack my head on those, and then I would also, when we would be wiring, you know, throughout the house, I'd be crawling through all those attics. And I can't tell you how many times I would crush my head on a beam.
Wait, you were crawling through attics or attics?
Attics.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I thought you were like crawling through a sea of meth users.
I had hit my head so many times that for a while there was this weird like divot on the top of my head, and eventually it rounded back out. But I know I had concussed myself several times just doing stupid shit at work. You know.
Yes, I mean I've had multiple concussions, and before I was on the medication, I used to have episodes where I would get dizzy or I'd black out or I would stare at myself in the mirror for like 2 hours and not know where the time went.
Yeah.
And I was trying to have doctors look at it for years. I'm like, listen, I know something's wrong with my head, and they're like, oh, you're fine, you're fine. I'm like, just do the damn scans on my head, and then they found like 2 dozen, or more than 2 dozen. I think they found 26 little bruises across the side and front of my brain. And so they put me on the Keppra, and now it's perfect. I mean, I used to, when I wasn't on the I've been on the medication for like 3 or 4 years now. But before I was on it, I used to hear my own voice in my own head telling me things, crazy shit. I mean, and like just the thoughts I would have would like be like just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that explain that. You know, I think more people need to get their heads scanned, especially in collision
Yeah,
related, you know, employment.
yeah, yeah. So I have had many concussions with many matches from Billy Fives.
Well, that's
No, that wasn't the worst. But the worst one was when I was 19. I fell off a balcony, and the security guard tried to catch me, and I fell back and hit my head. I was out cold for like 14 minutes.
Do you
Yeah.
remember the match?
Yes, I remember the match,
Okay.
and I remember everything about it. I was working Blair Rogers, and then in the ambulance afterwards, the ambulance that came to get me actually got a parking ticket, and they wanted me to pay the parking ticket. I'm like, you people are crazy. But so they were asking me all these questions in the car, in the ambulance. I mean, and like I knew the answer to everything that I shouldn't have known. Like, yeah, I knew my name, my date of birth, social security number, and knew all that stuff. But then I even knew my insurance policy number, their phone number. I knew everything, stuff that I should not know, that I was able to recall instantly. And but they said what happened, and I didn't know what happened though. I didn't know how I got there.
Right. You don't remember. I think that's a lot of knockouts. People don't remember the actual like time right
Right.
around it. Uh, well, you see that like in boxing and MMA when people get knocked out when they come to they're always like what happened, what happened, what happened.
Yeah. Right.
Um, but
And
you always had a good memory.
well, I didn't know you before I was
Or
19, but
or well no, but I mean or
that helped, I
like
think.
you don't have like a photographic memory, but something kind of like it or
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah. Oh, for
you
long
remember
term,
shit
yes.
when you see it.
Yeah, long term shit. Yeah, it's not short term. Like that happens to me all the time. Like I was watching Rocky 2 the other day, and I it's like at a point I haven't seen in years. It got to a point where, um, it was a good scene coming up, and it was on regular TV. So there's a commercial. I got up to use the bathroom, and I came back, and I'm like, what am I watching?
Ah, yeah.
And I couldn't remember what I was watching. I had to wait for it to come back on. So short term is bad, but long term, yeah. Like now, like today, I remember it was Rocky 2 that I was watching. This happened a month or two ago. But like short term, yeah, no. I'd walk upstairs to get something in the kitchen and forget why I was there.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, yeah. So,
The
but
but speaking of people that have head injuries, I definitely want you to tell the story. The one because I saw you post it and it sounded pretty funny. Was the when you were promoting a match with Dolphins players on the radio?
oh yeah, there was. It wasn't my show. It was actually me and Mike Larry's show. I was 16 years old, 17 years old, and it was part of the Wing Ding, which was Y100's big bash at Hollywood Young Circle.
Was that footy?
And yeah, it was his event, and it was done for to raise money for a drug rehab center
Remember
called
when
Here's Help.
those all those radio personalities were actually like really big deals
Yes,
back
they
in the
meant
day?
something.
Yeah.
So the show was the the Dolphins had worked before, like Mike had worked with Kimbo Camper before. So this particular thing was going to be a six-man match. It was going to be me. Mike was injured. He had something. He had surgery on his knee, so he was on crutches. So they got me to take Mike's spot. So it was me, Mr. New York, Gil Canatella, and J.R. James,
Mhm.
managed by Mike on crutches, who was going to work against former Miami Dolphins Kimbo Camper, Jim Jensen, and Jim Kick. And Kick and Jensen, I guess, were from the '72, maybe Bo Camper too. I don't know, from the 1972
No, I
perfect
think
season.
Kim Bocamper was later. He
Yeah,
was
possibly.
he was
I
part
know.
of
I know. Kick was.
the Killer Bees defense, which I think was after.
Okay, I know Kick was on that team. So we did a
Yeah,
big
Kick was.
promo, and we did a big promo on the air, and us against football players, and they said, "Listen, go out there and say, before I got on the air, Footy said, listen, go out there and be, like he thought I was 16 years old, so he thought I was a kid, and I wasn't going to be able to really push the envelope. So he said, just be really nasty, cut into them, really sell this, like, like you don't care who they are, it doesn't mean nothing to you." So okay, so Footy's interview him, he says, "So you're going to work these Miami Dolphins? Must be a really big thrill for you to be in the ring with these football players, larger than life." I'm like, "No, I don't even know who they are." He's like, "What? You don't know who they are?" I'm like, "Yeah. I mean, first of all, I mean, what is this? We're wrestling Kim Camper, Jim Jensen, and Jim Kick." I go, Kim Camper. I go, "Why is there a woman in the match? I didn't even know you could have women on football teams." He's like, "No, Kim Camper's a man." I go, "What? A man with the name Kim? He must be Japanese." and he's like, "No, no, no." And Kim Camper's like sinking in his chair. I'm like watching them, and then he says, and I go, "Well," he goes, "Jim Kick is a legend. The man was on the 1972 perfect season. What do you say about that?" I said, "Oh, they never lost a game at all." And when was this? He goes, 1972. He goes, "Didn't you see that tremendous season?" I said, "No, I couldn't watch it. It was 2 years before I was born." And so and I go, "And
Right,
who's the other
because
guy?"
you're
Jim.
16, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in '74. So then the next guy is I go, "And Jim Jensen." I go, "Why do they have the guy who created the Muppets wrestling?" He goes, "No, that's Jim Henson." I go, "Oh, I do like that show. I mean, that's funny with Miss Piggy and stuff. It's in Kermit." He goes, "No, that's Jim Henson." So we did the match, and Dan Marino was their manager. He was actually active. He was actually active at the time as a quarterback. He managed them.
Yeah, maybe Bocamper was actually playing at that time then.
I don't think he was playing. I think he just retired recently,
Okay.
and he got the gig on the news as the sports guy
You
or
know,
something.
he's still on the
Yeah,
news. He's still the sports guy on the news.
is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had met Dan Marino before. Dan Marino wasn't there to do the promo. He was there at the day of the match, but I actually met him about a month before the match and didn't even know it. We were at Don Carter's bowling alley in Weston
Right.
and or Sawgrass Mills, and I was playing Twilight Zone pinball, and I was really good at it. I would constantly get free games, and I was playing and playing and playing all day long. And this guy's in the arcade running around. His kid's running around screaming, and he's chasing the kid. And I'm thinking, this guy can't control his kid, and so the guy comes over with his kid and says, "Hey, my kid really loves this game. You're really good. Do you mind if he watches you?" And I said, "Look, I have like 5 free games in there. I gotta go. Just take the games and play. You can have with the kid." He goes, "Well, would you mind want to play a game with him?" And he really loves the way you play, and it calms him down. I said, "Why don't all 3 of us play? I have a lot of games." He's like, "Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you so much." So I'm playing this pinball game with me and this guy and this kid, and then my friend is there with us. He walks up behind me and he's standing there like looking at me, looking at the guy, looking at me, looking at the guy, looking at me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like drooling. He's like drooling. I'm like, "Get out of here! You're creeping the kid out, and more importantly, you're creeping me out. Go away." So he walks away. A few games over, he stands there. He's staring at us like with his jaw open, and I'm like, this guy's fucking flipping out. My friend's like lost his mind. So he finished the game, and the guy's like, "Thank you so much," blah blah blah. He goes about his business, and then my friend comes over and says like, "Oh, you were just playing pinball with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "That was Dan Marino." I didn't even know that it was Marino, kind of like the Spielberg thing. I
Yeah.
don't pay attention to these people. I don't know who they are. And his kid is autistic, so I guess I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah,
So that was
I was going to bring that up. That's
that's why he was having problems with his kid. I didn't know that. And then
yeah.
as we leave, he's being bombarded at the cashier's counter, surrounded by people asking for autographs and stuff. And then I saw him a month later at the wing ding, and he remembered the situation. And he said, "Yeah, thanks. You were like a real person. You were like genuine. You treated us like real people." I said, "Yeah, I didn't know who you were." Not that it would have
That
mattered anyway.
no, that helps. That goes a long way though. That definitely helps.
Not that it would have mattered anyway. I wasn't a football. I didn't watch football.
Right.
Yeah, so
So how I got a question. When you guys do a match where there are no actual workers on the other side, it's all football players. How does
Yeah,
that? How do you make that
we
thing work out?
we had worked out with Bo Camper because he came down. He kind of showed the other guys. We trained with him ahead of time, and then he, I guess,
Oh,
showed the other
so
guys.
so Bo Camper knew like the basics.
Yeah, but it didn't matter because they were stiff as hell in there. I mean, like we did a spot where
Yeah, well, they get paid to hit for real, so yeah,
yeah, they did a spot and they knew it was a work. They knew it wasn't real, but still they couldn't. They had a hard time holding their punches,
yeah.
so to speak. They weren't throwing punches there. They were throwing a lot of football tackles. So and I'm 16 years old, so I'm small, I'm young, I'm fragile, and and I get hit with a shoulder tackle from Bo Camper, and then we do a spot
And
where
these are like
Bo Camper,
these are like men, like
yeah, these are like Bo Camper's more than two times my size,
right,
easily more than two times
yeah.
my size. I was like 165 pounds,
And they're like
and so
they're like Bo Camper's huge. He's like a
yeah, oh
tall,
yeah, yeah. He's
yeah.
like probably a foot and a half to 2 feet taller than me, and 150 pounds, 200 pounds heavier than me.
Hmm.
He hits me with a shoulder tackle and he kills me. He drills me, almost knocked me out of the ring. And the next spot was for me to get hit by two of them with a tackle, like Bo Camper and Kick hit me, and I took the tackle from them. And then I was supposed to get up and take a third one from all three of them, and I didn't. I didn't feed to the third one. I said, "That's it, I'm done." I just took a powder out of the ring. I didn't feed him for the third tackle.
That's funny. That
Yeah,
I mean that's a even at that time that was probably a big draw though. Have those
I mean
guys.
they had at the Wingding they drew on a Saturday. Now this was an all day
Oh yeah, it
event.
was the wingding, so it was probably a big
Yeah,
deal anyways. Yeah.
yeah. So it was an all day event. So they had like 100,000 people come through Young Circle throughout the day. So any given time there was like 20,000 people there in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was huge. Yeah, they had Vanilla Ice play the concert that night, and Julio Iglesias and Vanilla Ice came into our locker room because I guess they put him in a locker room by himself and he had no air conditioning in there. And so he came in to share a locker room with us, and Rusty was there, and he's like, hey, can I share your locker room with Rusty? Yeah, sure, no problem. And then he sat down and he went to get something, and Rusty goes, who the hell is that? Kind of like me with the
Right. Right. I definitely could see Rusty having no fucking clue who Vanilla Ice is.
yeah. Or he didn't. Or he may have known. Didn't, like, who the fuck is he? Didn't care.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
Yeah. So
I don't know. I'm not sure Rusty was that in touch with pop culture.
yeah, no, and I mean I've met some celebrities along the time that I have known. Like me and Blair were at a Denny's one night, and they used to put us in the back room. When we go there, we knew them, and Weird Al Yankovic was playing Sunrise Musical Theater that night, and he came there to the Denny's, I guess, to eat afterwards, and they put him in the back near where we were, away from everybody. And he was like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" Of course, I knew who he was, and he's like, "I'm Al." He goes, "What do you recommend here?" I said, "It's Denny's, Al. I mean, nothing's good." He goes, "But what's the best?" I said, "The parsley is so fresh tonight. That crazy." So he ordered whatever he ate. I think he ordered pancakes, and he ordered a bowl of parsley, which
Jesus.
he put syrup on, and ate the entire bowl of parsley with syrup on it.
Just always performing, huh?
Yeah, so he was weird, and I think we also met Jackie Mason was there at that same Denny's a different time, and they put him in the back too. I think he was playing Sunrise Musical Theater as well, and he said something like, "Do you mind if I sit back here with you guys?" And I'm like, "No, Mr. Mason." And he's like, "You know who I am?" I said, and again, I was like 17 years old. He goes, "Yeah, I said, I know, yeah, I know who you are." He goes, "I'm surprised. Most people your age wouldn't know who I am." And then he was fine. I think he bought our dinner that night.
I discovered him after he was in Caddyshack too. I think
Yeah,
he got a bump, from being in a high profile movie
yeah,
like that.
yep, yeah. I don't remember how I knew him, but I still knew him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
that's I forgot. Oh right. The wingding, that wingding was such a big thing for well, I don't know how many years, but I just remember that Footy was like the first guy I knew that had like his own hot sauce and you could
yeah,
buy it like on the shelves of Publix. And
yeah.
it
Now
was
that
like the
those
first of those it was like the first of those types of things. Like I'd never seen an individual have
he was.
like a
I
food
don't think he's
product
alive
like
still.
that.
I don't think he's alive anymore still, but he was a weird guy. He got drunk there at the Wingding, and I don't remember this, but Frank said that I said in the promo one time when Footy said that I treated the Dolphins inappropriately last year or something, and I better be on my best behavior this year. And I said, well, you were drunk last year on stage for a charity event for substance abuse, so that was inappropriate.
I'm sure.
But I was
I'm sure he would have. He appreciated that.
he didn't, but I was told to go over
To
to
be
be
heel,
like a
yeah, yeah.
yeah to be like to be worse than a heel, to be like a disrespectful little punk. Because that's
Right.
I was a kid, and I look like a kid, so I was supposed to be a disrespectful punk. Like I did that in my first show in Miami that I worked for Ram. That was Ram's idea. He said be a disrespectful punk, be a disrespectful kid that has no respect. So I said okay, and so when I went out there, I went out there as a heel, and I said with Frank, I was Frank, my manager. I said stand up and pay respect to me and give me the applause I deserve. And the crowd actually stood up and applauded for me. And I forget what I had to do to turn them around or something. And oh yeah, so they booed my opponent, and I said something like I said, see, you people are stupid. You're famous for condemning innocent men. Look what you did to William Lozano. That was the guy in back then who, I think, the cop who shot the guy on the bike, the biker, and killed him.
That's
And
real,
so
like top. That's really topical. I don't even
yeah,
remember that.
so it happened in Miami.
Yeah,
So it got a lot of heat, and they were throwing bottles at us and trying to kill me. That's where I got the whole idea for the
that's
Generation X gimmick, which was stolen from me by Jim Cornette.
well. That's the that's the thing where they're like, everyone's like, do this thing, and you're like, are you
Yeah,
sure? Are you sure? And they're like, yeah, yeah, you can't go too
yeah.
far. And then you do
Ron,
it, and then they're looking at you like you got lobsters crawling out of your head, and you're like, you asked for it.
I'm like, I always said, what can I say? And oh, nothing's off limits. Like Ron Nimi did it to me. We went and worked in Tampa, and Ron's like, yeah, we allow curse words. Say whatever you want. I said, what words are off limit? What can I say? There's nothing. I said, so I'm sure you have to have words that are restricted. He said, no, no, say whatever you want. So when I went out, I said, oh, Tampa's a great town. As we drove through here, we saw the potential. This town could be if you planted a few trees and picked up some trash and painted a few buildings, this town could be a real shithole. And they started going crazy in Christmas, so I started calling people cunts and twats and all kinds of stuff. And then when I came back, he's like, oh, and I cut a promo on Shannon Rose and about having sex with his wife. When I came back, they put a restriction on the next show that certain words were off limits.
You created the list.
Well, yeah, my whole thing was like, when that gimmick is what the Generation X gimmick was supposed to be, was a disrespectful generation, or for everyone that comes before them and after them, because when I died there at Purple and I had the jersey with the big X on it and the word generation above it, I was Generation X. The X was at a Superman symbol. I had the tattoo on my leg. And when I saw
Right.
Jim Cornette at Cauliflower Alley in New Jersey, he was like, Jesus Christ, Bobby Rogers, what the hell are you doing? You got purple hair. You look like Barney the Dinosaur. What's the gimmick? I love it. Oh, my God. Tell me more. Tell me more. I said, well, I'm just Generation X. He says, Generation X, what is that? I said, well, I'm a product of my generation. I have no respect for authority, no respect for those who came before me and paved the way, no respect for the next generation. I'm just a total degenerate. Oh, my God, degenerate generation. I love it. I love it. I love it. That was a Saturday on Cauliflower Alley in Newark, New Jersey. And on Monday, Generation X debuted, and he
Mm.
worked for WWF. It's when he worked for WWF at the time.
There you have it.
Yeah, so then I had to stop using the gimmick and change the jersey and stuff because everywhere I went, people say, "You're not Shawn Michaels."
Right. And because nobody's aware
Yeah,
of how timelines really happen, everyone now
right,
accusing you of stealing their idea.
right. So I didn't
That's
trademark or nothing. So
yeah,
I didn't have a trademark. They did.
yeah. Well, I mean, you had the tattoo.
Yeah. So that was that.
Well,
Like
that's
I said, I think I told you before. That wasn't the only time they got ideas from me. I had dinner with J.J. Dillon and a few other guys, Pat Patterson, I think, because Bill Apter was there and Buddy Rogers was there. I was there with Buddy, of course, and Bill. I was hooking up Buddy and Bill as a reunion, and they were both in town. We were all there, and Dwayne Long was there, I think. And then J.J. Dillon and Pat Patterson, they were, and Bill was like Bill Apter was putting me over, like, oh, this kid's is gonna make it someday in wrestling. He's got a great mind for the business. He's got great ideas for angles. And then Dillon and Patterson were like asking me for ideas that I had on angles, and I was like, well, this tugboat guy, no one likes him. This is like the second coming of Hillbilly Jim. The fans don't like him. You should turn him heel and change his name to like Tidal Wave and team him with Earthquake. It's a natural disasters,
yeah.
which they did as Typhoon. They just tweaked the name and made it one name, which was better. Typhoon was better than Tidal Wave. and they teamed them. And I said, and also you guys should bring Slaughter back. Get a hold of Sergeant Slaughter, pay him what he needs to jump ship from GI Joe, and bring him back as an Iraqi sympathizer with a Gulf War going on, and pro Saddam Hussein, put him as a heel, have him work Hogan at WrestleMania for the title, which they did.
That was a big fucking. That was a big
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm convinced they stole these ideas from me.
I mean, whether they did or they didn't, it's
Yeah.
you had the idea before it happened, and
Right.
you spoke to the right people for it to have been stolen.
Yeah.
Listen, I wouldn't put it past anyone in the wrestling business to
This
steal
is true.
anything they could, especially the higher up the food chain you are in the wrestling world, because you've always got to come up with the next thing, or you're not going to be there anymore. So
Yep, this is true. Yeah, I was convinced they were going to take that one angle I did on the FOW show where I did a ladder match for the tag titles, and we had the tag titles above the ring at I think it was Davey Roddy Arena, and then the one member of each team started climbing the ladders at the same time, and they both got a belt back. So we made a ruling that they were the new tag team champions. So we split the teams up. So one member of each team were the champions. They had now to face the other team, which was their partners. So I
right.
was convinced that they should have did that with Edge and Christian and the Hardys. That would have been an awesome angle for them.
I mean, that is a clever idea that I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah,
anyone else do.
yeah, that was mine. We did. I think it was Roth and Michaels and Albino and Chris Charger. So it's like Michaels and Charger, Albino and Roth. They were the skinny guys. They climbed and got the belts. So Albino and Roth were the champions, and Charger and Michaels were the champions. So they had to do the match, and then they did the match where it was like Michaels and Charger versus Albino and Roth, and it was weird because like Roth, they would do this. The match was Roth and Albino versus Michaels and Charger, but they would work it, and I was the opposite. Like it was Michaels and Roth. Like they wouldn't hit each other, and they do the do-si-do and then bump the other team, and like the other partners get mad, like, hey, I'm your partner. It was
Right.
it was great. Yeah, it was great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for a short term story, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I was going to suggest it, but I was going to suggest it in the Broder stuff, but for some reason I never got very farther. I know Lou was shit canning me to them.
Yeah, well, nobody lasted very long there.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe they have that guy book. I had such ideas to book. Like I so wanted to book Jordan Rayner as Non, Angel Rose with the black hair at the time as Ursa, and probably Flex Magnum as Zod, as the as the Superman villains, and then have him feud with someone as the Three Stooges, Mo, Larry, and Curly, because it would have been hilarious.
That would be,
I mean, that's a different kind of show. The Comic Con shows are different,
yeah.
where you don't have you're not trying to sell a serious show. You want to have comic relief, and that would have been great matches. The Superman villains versus the Three Stooges. The comedy spots alone would have been the best on the show.
The those shows, you didn't. It was more important that they just played the characters and actually did any actual wrestling.
Right, and that and the possibilities in that kind of match with the Three Stooges in there against the Superman villains powers would have been endless. I know I told you this. I don't know if I told you this on your show how I got paid, how I made $1,000 off Broder to harass him and then stop. Did I tell you that on the show or not?
Yeah. Who was it? Paul?
Yeah, it was a true story because I guess, and I told Howard about it later on because Howard asked me about it, and I guess Broder was supposed to come in with them on the Bombshells Wrestling and invest money or something or do something, be a partner, and then he backed out at the last minute and screwed them out of the deal or something.
I never even
And
heard
so
about that.
yeah, so that's why I never knew why Paul was pissed at Broder. That's why Paul was pissed at him. Um, so and then Broder started the Ronin shit or something. Something happened that Broder left. Because those around Broder, like Lou and them, would shit can everybody else. Oh, he's no good. He's no good. He's no good. And scumbag people. So so then Paul paid me $500 to relentlessly harass Broder online on social media for a week, just for a week. He said, just do it for a week, no more than that. Here's $500. And he PayPal'd me right away. He paid the fees, everything. So I did it for a week. Well, Broder had enough after
Let
the
me tell you
second
something.
day.
Back then, Paul didn't pay PayPal fees. He worked for PayPal.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, he paid, I mean, there was
I'm
no
just
fee. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm just making a joke. It
yeah,
didn't
I got
cost
five.
you anything.
I got $500. They didn't give me $490. I got the full $500.
Right.
And before I did it, And so by the seventh day, Broder had enough of it, and he contacted me and said, "Listen, I want to meet you at Dunkin' Donuts." It was the Dunkin' Donuts in Davie, where I guess they had met anyway. I didn't know this. They did their Comic Con things there or meetings. So
Yeah,
we met there,
we'd
and
rent one of those rooms.
yeah, so the one that used to be a funeral, used to be a funeral, a drive-through funeral home, and then became a Dunkin' Donuts later on. It was a drive-through funeral home at once. It didn't do very good business because that's a morbid thing. So
The one by is it the one by the schools?
yeah, it was a
Okay.
drive-through funeral home. It didn't last very long. They had like one funeral there, and no one wanted to have a drive-through funeral home where the body's propped up in a window. So it
That
didn't do very well.
sounds that sounds like a
Yeah,
skit in a movie.
yeah, it was weird. So Broder met me there, and he says, "Listen, here's $500. Leave me alone online." I said, "Okay." So he gave me a bank envelope with $500 and $20 bills in there to not harass him online. So I got paid $500 to stop harassing him when it was already up anyway. The week was over.
Perfect. Right.
So I made $1,000 in a week just to harass him and then to stop. Yeah, that wasn't the only guy that Paul paid me to harass. There were other people too.
The
Like
I'll
he sends me a check once a week still for Genetti. I'm kidding. I do that. I do that for free. That's pleasure.
it's this ties in to Howard a little bit. So I guess when I was working for Broder for the SuperCon, and and this is probably later because Mike had the office at this point, and we used to have parties in there because the office used to be a bar, and we kept the
Right.
bar in there and
Right.
whatever. Um, it was kind of it was a blast, but I think this was like either a holiday. I think it was a holiday party. It wasn't like a post. Sometimes we did like post convention parties there, but I
Right.
think this was like separated for a little bit of time, and I think Paul had been like pretty supportive and would come and help and he was just supportive, and I had invited him, and
Okay.
word gets back to me that Howard's mad that he didn't get invited to this party. Okay, and first
I
of
can see. I
all,
can see why Howard would have been slighted by that. Yeah.
let's to set some records straight on this is like first of all, it's kind of like a employee party. A lot of the wrestlers are invited because they're part of the quote show,
Right.
and then there's like some adjacent people, some friends of SuperCon, and Paul was a friend of SuperCon. Howard wasn't so much. Like there was a lot of like, yeah,
Right.
we'll promote your shows on social media. You promote our convention, et cetera, et cetera. And Paul would do it. And Howard at the time was like, I think he still was like, at least 6 months earlier, wanted some distance, didn't really want to associate himself with it
Right.
or whatever. I don't even remember. But I do know that he came and he got free
Yeah.
tickets and whatever, but he wasn't doing what Paul was doing. He was just someone we knew in the
Yeah.
wrestling business. He wasn't involved with us at all.
Right. Right. No, I know.
We even would be like, "Hey, make flyers for your damn shows and hand them out to the thousands of people that come to watch the wrestling over the course of 4 days." And I think Howard was a little bit of bumbledick about that and didn't get them printed in time. And Paul was really upset about it.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, Howard
And so
was a little lax on that stuff like
And
that.
so Howard was upset he wasn't invited, and I'm like, Paul, if he wants to come, you can bring him. I don't care. And then Paul gets back to me and goes, he won't come unless you invite him.
I love the comic convention stuff, and I really loved them. And I wanted to do more with them, but I knew I mean I don't know why I wasn't asked to do more included. I like Broder had it in for me. Like somebody told him something about me, like don't use that guy or something. I'm sure. I think it was Lou, but probably was you.
Well, we'll put a pin on that. I might have some theories, but I'm like, Jesus Christ. Now Howard has me jumping through hoops to invite him to something that he really shouldn't be invited to. But
Right.
I'm like, I don't care. He could be someone's plus one, but now I have to invite. So I was the bigger man and invited him to come to the party, and then everyone had fun and whatever. But
Yeah.
to speak on the Broder stuff, was there a time where there's some kind of miscommunication about you telling him about like copyrights coming up or trademarks or something, or like
I think
web
I think he asked.
addresses or something
I
like
think he
that?
asked me. I think he asked me to do it. I think he asked me how to do it one time, and I advised him how to do it and said, you know, just do it yourself. You don't have to go through an attorney. They're going to charge you a lot of money to do it. I didn't do anything for him. I never followed anything for him.
I thought maybe you had done something that he interpreted as like like you were like, oh, your thing's coming up, or I copyrighted, or you copyrighted something. I don't remember what it was, but I thought like after that
Oh,
he
not
got,
of his. I may have told him that I think there was a copyright coming up that he should trademark. I think I advised him to trademark his name and stuff.
I think either we're all misremembering this, but you have a good memory, or he misinterpreted it as like you were threatening to do something, or you were going to hold him up for something that maybe he had let lapse or something. And I think that was when he was like, he started to get a little power trippy with, and if again, if he was right, it would have made
Yeah,
sense.
no,
But I think
I
it was
wasn't trying to hold. I wasn't trying to hold him up for anything. I think I was just advising him to copyright or renew something that was coming up. I want no part of. I
well,
wasn't going to renew it from
I
him.
think he took it the wrong way then,
Yeah, yeah,
and then he laid a mandate like anyone that wants to work the shows can't have anything to do with you. It was something crazy and absolute kind of to
yeah,
dictatorshipy of him. When everyone in this business works with everyone, and everyone's and everyone's a snake, and everyone shouldn't be working with everyone. But I mean, even Lou Spector's still around till this day.
yeah. Well, Lou invented cosplay wrestling, of course.
Right. So, but I think that was the
Yeah,
genesis of
no.
that, and then
Yeah, no.
also uh, there was an issue where you had moved to Orlando, I think, and you were like either you were living with Max Cap or you guys were like neighbors or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and I know that you know Broder wasn't in the habit of like wanting to use people that weren't like within the
Oh,
immediate vicinity because it costs
yeah.
more money, and we were like
Who knows? It could
we
it
were
could have
then
been
talking
Max too.
about
'Cause
bringing you in, but then I think Max got folded in, and I'm like, and then Max was being an absolute cocksucker, and
yeah,
I'm like,
he
well,
was. Yeah,
I want nothing to do with this whole
yeah,
bundle of nonsense. I think
yeah.
I
He
think
was.
at one point you were in Orlando, and I was talking with Broder about we'll bring him in or whatever, but then Max like sank the whole ship on that because it was like,
Yeah, I believe
just
that too.
being a
He's got a lot.
total piece of shit and
Well,
being
he used to go behind people's
online
backs.
talking shit, and
He
I
used to
was
go behind
like,
people's
fuck
backs and
this.
act like he used to go behind people's backs and act like he represented them, even though he didn't. So he's done that a lot for people,
Right.
but
But
he can't do it anymore. He
nope,
can't hurt. He can't hurt us anymore.
it's true.
So listen, I got to take off.
Yeah, yeah.
We've gone on for a while.
I was gonna wrap it up. I said, listen, what was that movie? So I married an axe murderer. Go
Yes.
on, you've staged your hour. So I appreciate
All
very
right.
much you
Yes.
doing the
Thank
show,
you
and
for sure.
we will do it again sometime.
Yep. Have a great time.
All right, thank you, brother.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.